Now we're digging for signs of what lies ahead in the nation's political and economic horizon as gatekeepers continue to outline policies that would serve as key indicators and corner pictures of the nation's future. I'm delighted to have a former Minister of Sports and now a serving presidential aide in charge of the media and public communications portfolio, Mr. Sunday Dare. He joins us now on Prime Time. Glad to have you join us.
Absolutely. Good evening.
Yeah, the president is promising a 1 trillion naira dollar economy, rather, not naira, with a budget deficit of 13 trillion, 15.8 trillion in debt servicing. People are wondering, is it going to do magic? How feasible is that?
Well, you start from the background of the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not inherit a perfect economy. He also did not inherit a perfect country. He met certain fiscal realities and monetary realities on ground, clear indicators that the economy was weakening, struggles with debt servicing, loans that were ballooning. Against this backdrop, he had to take very courageous and bold decisions. The fiscal realities that he met on ground, he addressed that from the forex, stabilizing the foreign exchange market by taking away two major subsidies, the fuel subsidy and the subsidy that went into the forex. You know, he's a man of reality. This country must face up to the reality of our time. And you have a leader, just like Daniel, that has come to judgment, to say these are the realities of our time. As a president, as a political leader, as an accountant, as an economist. Even if it's not government, if it's a private company, you have to take those tough decisions. And I think that we have seen in 19 months the economic engineering that has taken place. Of course, we faced headwinds. Of course, difficulties have come along the way. And I know that you've reeled out a couple of numbers, and I'm sure that we can also give numbers that showed progressive impact flowing from some of these key reforms that have come. We know that the tax reform bill is on. I'm sure we're going to get to that.
Yeah,
we know that we have flipped the page from oil subsidy to oil sector reforms. We've seen our refining capacity, local refining capacity, climb up from a pittance of 15%, neck to 41%. We've seen reactivation of refineries. So there are positive signs in quite a number of areas, and this will come together.
Yeah, you mentioned two reforms that have left Nigerians more impoverished now that the president is here. The economy, subsidy on petroleum, and floating of the naira. In fact, some experts felt that the floating of the naira and the subsidy coming at the same time was an error. And today, Nigerians are wailing. They don't, like I said when I was reading, unending increase, unending of food prices.
Well, see, that's one side of the story on the part of the experts. We have another group of experts who think that this country for so long had skirted around its problems. Leaders before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had come on without really pressing the button that needed to be pressed to reset the Nigerian economy. So there's an argument on part of experts that this will have been done, one after another. There's also that position that the best decisions that were taken at the beginning clearly set out the plans that will follow through. Let me just give you an example, for instance. You had the choice, and I've said this severally, that sometimes if you refuse to take the stitch you need in time,
I have to talk about stitch in time.
You have to take so many stitches down the road. This country was hemorrhaging. this country was on a sliding slope. And at that point, we needed to apply certain brakes. At the point it came in, 2 brakes were necessary. You look at 30 years of this country skirting around subsidy removal. We're hemorrhaging $7.5 billion every year. We had a period in which 87 Nigerian companies and individuals were declared wanted for corruption having to do with subsidy scam. Have we forgotten? How did that end? And then we went back into that same subsidy process. But then we have seen that the removal of subsidy, the resources that have been freed up for human capital development. And one part that is really poignant is the fact, in 2023, 760 billion, that was the fact that was shared by the 36 states and the federal government. As at 2024, that moved up to 3.2 trillion. Now, when it comes to governance, there's the federal government, there's the subnational. Every month, these monies are shared. It has tripled to the state government. So, subsidy has freed up resources. If subsidy was not removed, we will not have that increase, 760 billion to 3.2 trillion. If subsidy was not removed, the reality is that the Dangote refinery will never have really come to life and full capacity if subsidy was not removed.
What has subsidy got to do with
Warri and Port Harcourt will have not come. These are subsidies, is oil sector reforms.
No, it's been going on there before the subsidy removal. Yeah. I mean, the Dangote,
but
Dangote refinery. And then there's
the sale, the president, the single stroke and decision, the statesmanly decision of the president from the point of economic expertise and clear understanding of the oil industry, for him to say, NNPCL, sell crude to Dangote in Naira. Yeah. The Naira denomination.
Yeah, people agreed with.
And then
he was
the free market
for that.
Forces. This country, even we've not employed the free market forces that we need to invigorate various sectors of our economy. We're seeing a president who is alive to the 21st century economic realities and who is resetting the fundamentals of our economy. And the oil sector is key. Warri has been reactivated.
After so many years of life.
Importation of oil has dropped. Port Harcourt has been reactivated. Local refining has moved up to 41%. 11 modular refineries are now producing. So there's something to be said that there were difficulties. There's something to be said that Nigerians are struggling. But also we can see clearly that there are results that are beginning to come out of these reforms.
Nigerians will wonder, how is this affecting their lives? You know, you mentioned something about some group of people that were selling the nation short in terms of
the
corruption.
Subsidy.
Yeah.
Corruption, yes.
You know. And the question has always been, Sunday, are these people ghosts? Why are these? For example, the country, they were telling Nigerians that the reason why subsidy must go is because some people are shortchanging the nation.
Right.
But never has one person been brought before Nigerians to say that this is one of the people prosecuting. I said this because there's also the issue of trust deficit between government and its citizens, due to corruption, and where, if you remove subsidy, where is it going to? Can we see where it is going to?
Well, I've outlined a particular area where that subsidy is going to. The FAC, that is what is distributed at the end of every month. And that's a figure you cannot really ignore. You can, of course, also infrastructure. We have 2 legacy road projects, the Coastal Project and the Sokoto Badagry Project. You also have health, you have education. You also see clearly what is going into agriculture.
By the way, the budget in education is quite low. I mean, the cry has always
No, but that is the best we've seen in the last 10 years for education.
And health, that Nigeria, the Abuja declaration
yes.
of 15%,
yes.
I think is about Health is about 2.8 or 3.
Well, if you look at the 2025 budget proposal, you see the boldness and the robustness of that. You look at 16 trillion going to human capital development, and you break it down: education, health, infrastructure, and of course, security, which is key. So when you look at the budget that was presented by Mr. President, you see clearly a president that is ready to propel the Nigerian economy forward. Haven't laid clear fundamentals, haven't taken bold decisions to say, right now it's time to invest massively in human capital development. The education budget you're talking about, almost 7 to 9%, the highest we've ever seen in 12 years. Absolutely.
There's another
The health education is also massive. Infrastructure, massive. So, you talked about rebasing, and I'm sure we'll come back to that. Because as we speak, the United States is going to rebase the economy this year. There's nothing wrong with rebasing. In 2014, this country rebased. And when we rebased in 2014, inflation nosedived and went down. And Nigeria became the #1 economy on the African continent. So the idea of rebasing this economy this year is also a very modern and realistic process that we need to embark on.
All right, let's talk. We'll probably get into some other things, but let's talk tax. The tax reform by the president is an agitation against government's tax reforms. You had me say there, price hike, PMS hike, increasing oil prices, and then again tax reforms.
Yep.
If it's such a good policy, why they not buy in?
Okay, so let me start. Every government, the surest way for any government in the world today to increase revenue
It's tax.
is tax. And like the president said, any tax reform, any tax bill that is out there that is not contested, that is not debated, that is not negotiated, is no tax. So we have proposed tax reform bills, 4 of them. It is before the National Assembly, the people's representatives. You have a president that has said, let's have this conversation. He has stimulated a national conversation and debate around this. And the president has promised, we're ready to cut edges around to make sure that we have a consensus. Just before I came in this evening, the Nigerian Governors Forum, the chairman, that is the governor of Kwara State, just about 30 minutes ago, read the communique of their meeting, saying all the governors are now queued up behind the tax reform bill, just about 20 minutes ago, except with the exception that VAT should not be increased, and that they support fully that the National Assembly should go through the process, first reading, second reading, public hearing, and then back to and then we have the tax reform. That's progress, because we've had 6 weeks or 7 or 8 weeks of this conversation that we need to have. A couple of things have come up. So I think that debate against the tax reform bill, that has been settled. Because
You mean even the 19 state governors?
yes, the Nigerian Governors Forum is all of them. Just
Yeah.
about is a breaking news before I walked in here.
Okay.
And when you look at this tax, you need to read the tax bills. We saw that at the beginning. Even the cheerleaders, when they were asked, "Have you read the tax bill?" They said, "Well, no, I don't have to read it. We just know that it's against us." But as time went on and we challenged people, read the tax bill. As we also created awareness, as we also broke down the tax bills into capsules, people started to see, and we engaged clearly. The North has its own fears.
Yeah.
Individuals have their fears. Average citizen has his fears. So all of these have come to the fore, and they have gotten responses, clear responses. And I think the simplification of our taxes, the reduction of our taxes from 50 to 10, the fact that there will be no taxes on food items, on health and education, that is the modernization of taxes. Our tax to revenue is one of the lowest in Africa. And when you look at, like the Governors Forum said today, they said most of our tax laws are archaic. And that is one of the reasons they've decided to come together to say this tax reform, even though it might not be perfect, should go forward. And I think as a nation, the tax reform bills have really woken us up to the fact that we must modernize our economy, we must simplify our tax system, we must also help the poor. Like the president says, this tax reform is not about taxing the poor, it's about taxing prosperity. We need a cooperative tax, not a punitive one. What this tax reform puts forward is a cooperative tax. Let's widen the tax net. If you need to pay taxes, pay taxes. And there's so much in the tax reform bills. Now, we see that there are other taxes you talked about. And the level of inefficiency we see in service provision is also because what comes in from taxes is not enough to take care of the infrastructure, to provide the services needed. And when you benchmark the taxes we're paying for electricity with that, what is paid for electricity in Europe, I've seen certain videos, somebody say, see, I'm paying 324 euros. When you benchmark it, I think for the economic realities, if we want a modern economy, we need to do, the rules cannot be different for this country. I agree that government must provide buffers, and that has been done. As we speak, the national cash transfer, as we speak, 5.3 million households, over 197 billion has gone out. As we speak, 75,000 naira will go to about 70 million poor Nigerians. Now, these are what we also see in advanced countries. We get checks in the mail from the US government. We get support checks, electricity checks from the British government when it was had. You see, so we see a government under President Tinubu providing options, moving forward with reforms, and we're moving from reforms into the transformational era as we start off with 2025. We also see the social safety net and investment ballooning to make sure that we get support to the poor and the poorest. But also we see MSMEs being supported with massive funds.
Now you've talked about SMEs. Before I even get to SMEs, you see, I have always had a different way of looking at comparing ourselves with, in fact, I was discussing with someone yesterday, and somebody was comparing us with Mali, and I said, should we be comparing? But when you want to compare with Europe, like you did a while ago, we're not being fair to Nigerians, because what they get in Europe in terms of services, Nigerians don't get it.
Okay.
So what's the basis for the comparison?
So you start from reality check. The taxes they pay in Europe determines the revenue that comes to government and the revenue that's available for government to provide the necessary infrastructure, either for electricity, either for water supply, either for education. And that's what I'm saying.
The talk is that the government is not giving deliverables for the people. Tax people pay. So people are...
This country, even as we speak, just yesterday at the National Assembly, when the FRS chairman met to present the budget, the lawmakers said even the 25 trillion revenue projected for 2025 is small. When you compare that to the size of our economy and other countries, it was 18 trillion last year, going up from the 10, 11 million that was inherited. So we see progressively from 11 trillion in 2023, 18 trillion in 2024, a projection of 25 trillion. So you see, we aspire, when we talk about lack of electricity, bad roads, lack of health facilities, weak educational system, we benchmark Nigeria with these other countries. We should also benchmark our tax system with the tax system there. And I say the responsibility now on government right now is that with this new tax system coming into place, with more revenue coming into government, the government has the duty, and this government is focused, to make sure that in the aspect of education, health, in the aspect of road construction, energy, that we have some progressive improvement that will impact the lives of the people.
I can tell you that with electricity, they've increased tariff, but it looks like the power consumption has gone down. I will discuss this with Bosu when he talks about assuring Nigerians that this time around things are going to go up. I'm going to bring that up to him, but we're spending more than we're earning. More than half of the projected revenue going into debt servicing.
Absolutely.
Surely no nation develops that way.
Well, you also have to look at the books. You have to look at the books. We've moved from spending 91% of our revenue to service debt to 62%. That's one. Two, we've also seen this president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been repaying in the last 1 year plus the loans inherited by 4 previous presidents, because governance is a continuum.
It is.
There's a way, if this debt hangs on you, the economy cannot breathe. So some of the revenue and resources coming in is used there to pay almost 16 different loans inherited by previous government. And people talk about loans. Which country in the world today does not take loans? Have you looked at the loan profile of the United States of America?
I think they're the greatest.
And then you look at the profile of the 14 most indebted nations in the world. Nigeria is not there. The first 16 names, it's there. It's available data. I think the point we must make is that every government has the responsibility to justify whatever loan it takes. These loans are not taken in isolation of a plan and a project that they'll be used for. Whatever loans are taken, there's a responsibility on the part of government to use them for the reasons where they're taken. And we have a president that has committed to that whatever loans that we take, we're going to apply them to the projects and policies that we put forward.
All right. A robust tax system is not just about collecting revenue, but fair distribution of resources. This has always been a sticking point.
Absolutely. When I talked about FAC, because we run a federal system, that's where we can really understand it. You look at our federal structure, you have the federal government. And I keep saying that this idea of blaming the federal government all the time, we need to reverse it.
Oh, yeah.
The sub-nationals have a responsibility. A state, I would not mention the state, last year alone, collected 499 billion naira. That's almost 4 times or 5 times what it was collecting previously. You go to that state and you see if there's any improvement. 449 billion is massive money.
It is.
Now, the framers of our constitution, who said we should have the sub-national and the local government, it's for a reason. The federal government cannot take care of the entire country. So the governors have the executive powers and they have responsibility. You see the breakdown of the FAC. Now, what are the states doing? We can talk about what the federal government is doing. We can talk about the support they've given. We can talk about federal government helping states to even pay salaries. That is there. So I think the conversation should go to federal government collects all these taxes, doesn't take 100% of it, distributes it. What are the other levels of government
doing?
You have a president who has ensured that local government autonomy, as we speak, from the end of this month, I talked about a local government chairman who thought, so I'll be getting 2.9 billion from 200 million I'm getting before. From the end of this month, local government will be getting
straight
huge amount. So what should happen is we should put our radar on the local government leadership, the state government leadership. Of course, the federal government has its own responsibility. And it's clear-headed about that.
That's very important. That's very key. At least if things work out well, development, you get to the grassroots, which is the reason for the local government. I can't let you go without talking about sports. That's not possible.
That's my former life.
Yeah. So what's your general, let's start with an overview before we narrow it down. What's your take generally on Nigeria hiring foreign coaches? What's your take?
I think that there are no fixed positions on the hiring of foreign coaches, because the world over, we see different countries hire foreign coaches. When Gennaro left this country, he went over to Benin Republic. We saw Stephen Keshi and others going to Togo and other countries. So it's part.
Amoneke has been to Uganda, I think it's Uganda.
Yes, Tanzania.
And we have Tuchel for England now.
Yes, and Cisse from Senegal, Atlantis, is going to another country. So it's part of that, the football ecosystem.
Yeah.
When we talk about foreign coaches, we go to foreign coaches first, unfortunately, because of their skin color. There's a complex there. Because we believe that the man with the white skin color is better.
Which is not true.
Which is not true. And then we've tried to reverse that. When I was minister, I gave opportunity to several indigenous coaches. I was the one that brought on Yobo to be part of the technical team. I was the one working with Amaji that brought on Finidi George. With the support of the NFF, Eguavon has been there for a long time. Then when we were going to the World Cup, we built a complete indigenous coaches. We brought in Emmanuel Amonike. So we had Yobo, Amonike, Eguavon, all of them working together. Prisaro was just on the side supervising. So it's not a question of local or foreign coaches. It's a question of what do you bring to the table?
What do you bring to the table? So let me ask you the game.
Yeah.
So why Eric Chelle? He's a Malian.
No, well, I listened to his press briefing.
Okay.
And he said, I'm a Franco-Malian. And then he went on to say, I am of a French father and of a Malian mother. But again, let's unpack it. What has that got to do with what he has to offer us?
Oh, well, we're talking, we're chatting. So
because I've read several conversations about it.
There will be. We expect that. We expect that.
And you know, legitimate questions. But I know that the process of hiring a coach is determined by 2-3 major factors, of which the skin color isn't one of it. One is the record and the qualification of that coach.
I got is what he did with Mali.
Secondly is the pay. How much? How much does he want to take? How much can this country afford?
We don't have all the time.
But also the third is a clear understanding that what does our football need right now and who can fix it? And we have to take that hard choice. We have a team with world best players with a blunt attacking system. We've moved from 1-0, 1-1, 1-0, 1-1.
Blunt attacking system.
The same place Mali was.
And at the verge of not qualifying for the World Cup.
We have a coach who clearly, most recently, has turned the fortune of Mali from 1-0, 1-1 and losing. That means he has some DNA that he can inject into our boys.
All right.
And let's give him the opportunity. The contract is out there. You know, they have a gun to his head. He has to perform, or he goes away. He knows what we're looking for, and that's the way it happens.
Thank you.
Even
so
in the
much.
EPL, La Liga, and the rest, we see coaches being fired after 6 months. You give Eric Chelle an opportunity. He gets the support of our team. We see what he can do with his team, and of course, Nigeria football will get better.
Okay, let's see what he does. I guess that's a good place to leave it. Thank you so much, Sunday.
Thank you, Indy,
for being on the program.